Because we make so many of our decisions in life with something as arbitrary as a coin flip, I really wanted to know in the past, is this thing really random? Is it 50-50? So what I've done in the past is I've taken a quarter and I've just flipped it hundreds and thousands of times like a fucking lunatic, because that's what I was. And, I marked X if it was a heads, circle if it's a tails, and then over time, we get to measure, is this thing truly 50-50? And when I was flipping the coin, I tried to keep it fairly consistent, but of course, every time I flip it, it's from a slightly different height. Maybe I started on a different side, there's different amount of pressure, it's hitting different parts of the floor. All these things contribute to the randomness, and it turns out that after thousands and thousands of flips, this thing does turn out to be roughly 50-50, at least with a quarter when I tried it. But what's interesting is, does a 3D coin in Blender using simulation, things that are very deterministic, does this also yield a 50-50 result? So in this video, I'm going to be flipping a coin hundreds or thousands of times, whatever I have the patience for, and we're going to see, if this thing is truly random. Okay, so we're gonna need a basic setup, and I think I know exactly what to do for this. So we just need a coin, a thing that hits the coin, and a surface for it to land on. So starting off with the coin, I'm just gonna try to mimic the real world scenario where it's gonna be a cylinder that's gonna be fairly round, and we also wanna make it fairly skinny. So yes, this is gonna be our coin that we're just running rigid body dynamics on. With this coin, I'm just gonna put it off to the side. This is where we're gonna hit it. We wanna make sure this is a rigid body, so it's affected by gravity and forces, as you can see, but I want it to start deactivated. So start deactivated so that when I click play, nothing happens until I hit it with a hitter object. So that's going to be a cube, it could be whatever. And I'm thinking for this, I'm just going to keyframe it so that over 10 or so frames, it's just going to basically hit the tip of it, kind of like simulating a thumb flicking it. So bunch of keyframes, and then on the next frame, I'm just going to move it off to the side so that it doesn't interfere any further. So far we have this, which doesn't look very good. So a couple things to fix. First of all, for our coin, we should specify that the collision is a cylinder collision, because this is a cylindrical object. For the cube, we also want to make it a rigid body so it interacts, but it's going to fall. So we need to make it an animated rigid body so it actually follows the animation. And that should be pretty good. I guess only other thing to specify, it should be a box, and this should also have a large plane surface to land on, which is a rigid body being a passive one, so it doesn't move. So here is our scenario. We have a coin and it flips, and if we don't change anything, it's going to do the same simulation again and again and again. But if I was to add a bit of rotation, you can see it does something slightly different. So we're going to be modifying the initial conditions. But an issue here is that the coin, we don't know which side's heads or tails, no way to specify this. So I'm thinking let's give it a custom material for this. Okay, so material, I'm going to make one, and I'm thinking all we need to do is we need to make the top side one color and the bottom side another. Fastest way to do that is you take texture coordinates. I'm going to use object coordinates. By the way, this is node preview. It's an add-on. Don't worry about it. Not important. We're going to take these object coordinates. I'm going to separate them by X, Y, and Z so I can look at their X channel, Y channel, and Z channel. Specifically, the Z channel is the one I care about because this goes top to bottom. We take this and we just say, where is this gradient going to be greater than? Well, I guess we can pick, but we'd want it to be greater than 0. So you can see we can do the thing here. Greater than 0 gives us a white side and a black side. And most importantly, because we're using object coordinates, which stick with the, transform of the mesh, this will work. The texture in some sense sticks to it. So in this case, we could say that white is heads and black is tails, and we just need to keep modifying the initial conditions. But a couple quality of life things just to speed this up for me before I do this hundreds or thousands of times. In the scene properties, I'm going to go to rigid body world. I'm going to first of all increase the quality of this simulation just so we're getting good results. But more importantly, the speed, I'm going to increase it so that the simulation goes a bit faster, although 2 might be a bit too fast. So something like 1.3 means I'm not going to have to wait as long. And as long as I keep this consistent, it should be fine. And I know you're asking yourself, how are you going to vary this coin flip? Are you just going to keep adding different keyframes every time? No. Basically, all I need to do is go into the delta transform properties, which is like a second layer of transformation. Either way, you go to the delta transform, you just add a bit of rotation or location, whatever, and it should give different coin flips every time. So there's one result. We could also like increase the scale of this. That will give a different coin flip. And I'm thinking like every single time I can even change the location, I'm just going to give it like different random parameters, and that should simulate different thumb pressures and locations and all that, different spins. And as long as I keep varying that, that should be fine. And also a way to document these coin flips so I can actually keep track of it. We can do all of this in Blender, and I guess we should. Text editor. We can make a custom text sheet where every single time I can write like H for heads or T for tails, and keep tally of it. So I think now all that's left to do is to flip this coin a bunch of times with different initial conditions and assume that simulates reality. And let's find out if this coin is really, truly random. Okay, so I finished collecting the data. I only did it for 37 minutes because after that I couldn't stand it anymore. But I think it's a good amount of data. I varied it up and shit like that. Here's what we got. A bunch of H's and T's. And because we're in the text editor in Blender, this isn't the best place to do analysis. I'm just going to take this, copy it, and do all our big work over in Google Docs, where I can just paste this. And I guess what we need to do is we need to calculate the number of tails, the number of heads, and the total. So to do this, I think Control F, you search for T. There's 118 T's. So let me write that. 118 T's. How many H's are there? There are 102 H's, which means we have a total of 220 flips. And now let's bust out the calculator and see what the math comes out to. So tails is 118 divided by 220 is, it should be near 50% if it is a truly random coin, is like 53.6%, which means that heads should be something like 46.4, which means it's biased. Now, of course, the bigger the sample size, allegedly, you know, if it's truly random, the closer we should converge to 50, if you know binomial theorem and all that. Now, it's totally possible that this is a very biased test. I'm noticing a lot of long stretches of both letters. So, and it's not like impossible. It's just very uncommon to have this many tails in a row, and then it happens again and again and again. So I think I didn't vary it enough every single time. But I think what this does prove is, even though I was just like manually pulling things, which is very not random, like I tried to emulate randomness, but I didn't. If I could still get pretty close to 50%, I'm willing to bet if you were to actually randomize this with a script or something and look at the results, maybe it is a truly random thing. So however this is simulated, bullet physics or whatever, I guess it's kind of a thing. I don't know where to take this concept from here, but now we know it's kind of a random coin, close to it. Cool. By the way, I should mention that this video and all other videos are brought to you by the very generous patrons over on my Patreon, which is both for this channel and the CG Matter channel. I just want to mention, if you join that, whether it be to just support this channel or to get the benefits, you do get benefits like blend files. I mean, I guess I could put this blend file that I used to simulate the coins. It would be pretty useless, but anything I've uploaded over the last like 2 to 3 years is available there. That's a lot of blend files. Also exclusive tutorials that I post every once in a while, a couple times a month. Those are only for patrons. Additionally, early access to videos when possible. So sometimes that is a week ahead, sometimes that's 2 days ahead, stuff like that. All that exists. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description. If you're not, then you're not. Cool.